Well, here we are, and for those of you, well, you had just a bathroom break for television, because we're going to continue with the New You. This is part 2, New You, part 2. We're going to look at the reality of death, consequence of what we were talking about. But I certainly am not going to be redundant and go back over, especially when you're watching on television. That's difficult. When we have people gathered, sometimes it's hard for people to catch up. But what we're trying to talk about is the reality of the human element, that inside of a human brain are compositions, molecular structures, electricity. There are no Jesuses in there. There's no angels, demons, devils, or any of this stuff. It's all electronics. We were talking with Renee a moment ago about the Bible. And of course, the Bible is filled with symbolisms of God being in you and Jesus being in you and demons being in you. And all there ever was in any human being are electrical impulses that interact with, some type of molecular stuff. And that's all that's ever been there. But yet, somehow, if you take the human brain and then you subject it as it is to these cosmic rays that come down from the stars and the constellations, what's being provided to you is the thesis that these cosmic rays have an effect on the human brain. And of course, we looked at the Bible this morning, and the Bible said, can you bind the influences of Orion? And kind of supported that idea. And I don't want to repeat myself because you just saw this. If then our brain has this little television set which goes from 2 to 13, and quote-unquote God, for lack of a better word, is transmitting on channel 7,300 or 546, then we have, how are we going to how are we going to pick up the signal on channel 7,546 if we can only get up to channel 13? And so what we're going to say is, it doesn't exist. And if somebody does somehow exercise through meditation and openness, and a break comes, and they're able to pick up signals from channel 7,546, when they tell everybody down here who can only get channel 13, everybody's going to say, you're crazy. You're into occult stuff, see? Because these people are incapable of understanding anything like that. It's the only possible explanation to all of this stuff is that there is available an opportunity for a human being to reach up to a higher frequency. So then the idea would be to enter to the right hemisphere of the brain and lift oneself up to a higher frequency, and there you'd be sitting at the right hand of the Most High God, because you'd be entertaining yourself at the right hand of the Most High frequency. Basically what this is all about. But let's then get to the nitty-gritty. How do we expand our brain skills to function on higher frequencies? Okay? Because we've got to put this at rest. If this can be done, and there is abundant information from psychiatrists, psychologists, the types like Carl Jung, the types of the ancient mystics, the Buddhists who can sit and take an ice cold sheet and put it upon themselves and then chant Om and heat the thing dry. There is something that is available through the human brain when it is able to move out of this 2 to 13 syndrome that can do magnificent and things that are beyond our ability at this point when we function from 2 to 13 to understand. Now, if, for instance, there is, say, 7,000 channels on the universal cosmic TV set, and we can only get up to channel 13, then we've got to get a new set. We've got to connect, find a way to hook up to this cosmic cable company, if you would, and expand our ability to pick up this information, say. Because that's what we're not doing. Next week, I would, and this, obviously not for you, but next week, for those of you who are physically can be here, next Sunday morning I'm doing crop circles. And if you really want to see something really interesting that has to do with this, that's when you should be here next Sunday morning, and you should tell people about it. Because for people that are hesitant about this, I'll show you some things that are going to make people sit up and take notice Sunday morning. about these crop circles, okay? Okay. If you could invent a device to tap into this, you know, I guess maybe that would be fine. That would be one way of picking up the information. Or you can activate the circuitry in your own brain. Can you activate the circuitry in your own brain? There is a scientific word for how you activate the circuitry in your own brain. The scientific word is meditation. That's what you have to do. So you have to activate this brain, and you have to allow it to move. But you have to work at this. You have to allow the brain to operate in meditation via scriptures, because you got to understand. That's very, very important. It's very, very important that you understand what's happening to you. It's very, very important that you understand what your goal is, if you want to use that word. Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness is the question of expanding your sight beyond your ability to see, beyond the point that you can see, reaching a higher perceptual potential. How? This is now, I'm going to run you through the Bible real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time, but let's just jump around the Bible real quick for a few things, and let me show you how you do it. The instructions are in here, okay? Go to page 781, and on page 781, look at Matthew chapter 6 and verse 22, and there is the very first statement there as to how you will increase your perception of the frequencies that are coming through the cosmos, the cosmic rays, etc. And in Matthew 6:22, it says that you must practice the single eye. That's activating that which is the pineal gland of the brain, and that's number one. So there's a thing for you to do. That's in the scriptures, it's quoted in there, and that's a very ancient scripture that predates the Bible by thousands of years about the single eye, and so forth and so on. The second one's on page 853, and it's realization. Luke 17 and verse 21. Page 853, Luke 17 and verse 21. You have got to realize, well, we want to call this the kingdom. Let's not call it the kingdom. Let's call it the power, okay, is in you. You have to come to a realization of that. So you have to practice the single eye in your meditation, separating from the... You've got to realize that the power is in you. That's what this scripture says. Okay. The second thing, if you're seeking that which is the Christ power, the Krishna power, that is simply a representation or a symbol, okay? The Christ is simply a symbol of an intelligence and a power for good that is latent and is ready to resurrect within you, okay? If you look at page 880 of the Bible in John chapter 14, page 880, okay, and verse 20, it says you must also recognize the fact that this Christ power is in you. So the God power is in you, the Christ power is in you. You have to practice the single eye, and you must energize this by doing what it says in Matthew 6 on page 782. Page 782, Matthew chapter 6 and verse 33. And you must seek it. Look for it. Look inside of yourself. And that's the first thing you have to do. The first thing you have to do is not read books, not read Bibles, not go to church, not sing songs, not to take part in the rituals and all of this type of thing. The first thing you got to do is look inside of yourself. That's what Joshua said to Christ. Look inside of yourself, realize that the Christ power is in you, realize that the God power is in you, practice the single eye. The second thing, or the fourth thing, Luke 11, page 847, Luke chapter 11 and verse 52. Okay? Realize that the key to all of this is inside of you, and that you take away this key when you don't enter within yourself. That it's not possible for you to develop this. It's not possible for you. Is that okay? Or?
I think so, yeah. I heard something happening here.
Oh.
It looks like it's all okay.
Okay. Well, is the little wheels going around in the recorder?
All your little wheels.
All the little wheels are going around. Okay. Okay. And finally, in John 21:6 on page 886, it says, cast your net or cast your energy to the right side. And these are teachings of Jesus, Jehoshua. These are his teachings. Practice the single eye. Realize the power is inside of you. Look inside of yourself. Look for that power. Understand that the key comes from looking inside of you, and cast your energy to the right side. And that's, what's it all for? Now just stop for a minute. For what? What are you going to find in there? God is in there? Absolutely not. There's all kinds of stuff in your brain is in there. Electrical impulses are in there. There's nothing you can see in it. But something must happen to the electrical impulses. When the electrical impulses are changed by the cosmic rays, which comes from the stars and the constellations, and you start energizing yourself by directing that energy to the right side, something must happen. See? Now, there is no doubt that cosmic rays are coming down from the stars and from the constellations all the time. They're coming down. There's no doubt about that. And as we said this morning, the important thing to remember is the cosmic rays that are coming down from the universe are providing the information, but you do not have a receiver that's capable of picking up that frequency. If any of you sitting in this room had a television set and all that it was capable was picking up to channel 13, the very first thing that you would do is run to get either a new television set or you'd have to get something from your cable company. And what you would need would be something they call a converter. A converter. And you'd put the converter onto your television set. Meditation is your converter. Because without meditation, you're going to channel 13. You're not going any higher. But when you hook up into meditation, now you have the capacity to expand yourself way beyond the limits of channel 13, way beyond the limits of where you've ever gone before with the ideas or the thoughts in your mind. For instance, what we were talking about before, let's dwell on it for just a minute again. Let's go back to the television thing. Okay. Your television set. Can you pick up ESPN, HBO, the Discovery Channel? Can you pick it up without the cable? No, you can't. It doesn't exist. You can't see it. See? But when you connect to it, then you're able to see what you otherwise cannot see. You can put a thing in your backyard and aim it up in the universe, and run a wire in and pick up all kinds of things from all over the world that you couldn't possibly see. Where's this stuff coming from? What is it? Off the satellite. All of this stuff, but what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get through to you is that you have to do something above and beyond that which you've always found to be normal in order to pick up all of this stuff. All of these things which the whole universe is calling you. The whole universe is calling you. And you know what? This is the interesting thing. Scientists today, Albert, have these tremendous things listening for sounds. They're listening for code to come from another planet. But they've made a serious mistake. You don't hear it with the outer ear. You can only hear it with the inner ear. So they can, and they've been listening for years, and they've never heard anything. Nobody's home. Because what is being transmitted cosmically through cosmic waves are those things which interconnect the human species. The whole universe is calling to you, but religion has told you, don't listen. And you know what? We haven't. And look at the world's condition. Look at the condition of it. How, if you tell people, look, these 2,000 years, religion has been desperately wrong. It's time to change. You become the enemy. You become the enemy. People have been slaughtered all over the world for thousands of years fighting about religion, and yet you become the enemy when you say you should stop. As long as you are stuck within your five senses, you'll never hear the songs of the angels. You'll never hear it. You'll never see the light of the gods. It's not possible. And I can tell you for a fact that this is getting so very, very close to you the ability to communicate because they are calling to you, but they need you to listen, they need you to understand, and they need you to open the capacity in your brain to receive that which is above, say, channel 13. They need you to lift yourself up to that high frequency. They need you to expand yourself within yourself. This new year, forget new year. It said new age. Forget new age. It is a whole millennium of universal cosmic things right now that you are in the center of, and you have an ability. And it doesn't mean that you don't get into anything spooky, scary. You simply open yourself. You simply allow yourself, allow the walls to fall down from within you so that you can hear, so that you can see, so that you can feel. But as long as you stay within that realm of your five senses, you will never, ever hear this. You will never see it. It's not possible. And the only thing that religious people have ever seen is the things that they've generated through their own emotions. So, you always can tell it, whenever they tell you they see something out of the corner of their eye. That's where you'll always see something. Yeah, I thought I saw something over there. Yeah. To a religious person, it's always out of the corner of your eye. So these things are being done. These cosmic rays are now let's talk about something else. And this is a factor where how many people can stray, how many people have ever been there. We'll talk about death. This is interesting. To me, it's very interesting because when you think of, here you are, suddenly the machinery stops. Now where are you? My car was alive. Suddenly the driver is no longer in it. It sits up in this lot. It's worthless. Is the car dead? For all intents and purposes, the car is dead. The driver's not. The driver's someplace else. And this driver can go into somebody else's car, into another car, different car, and the car will come to life. You see? So let's try to understand death in a new way that is difficult if you're stuck in the five senses. And if you're stuck in the five senses, you might have a little tough time with this. Let's go back to our friend the television set, okay? Just real quickly, and talk about the TV set. TV. You're a television set. There is nothing above channel 13. Right? Doesn't exist. Nothing exists above channel 13. The knob doesn't go any higher. When you turn it up to channel 13, when you go past channel 13, it goes back to 2. But the truth is, there is life beyond channel 13. There is life beyond channel. Look. And the reason that I'm dwelling on the fact of television is because it's exactly what you've got in your head. You've got a receiver, you've got a transmitter. It gives you three-dimensional pictures. And you have frequencies, you have electricity in here that makes it work. Now the point is, if there is life beyond channel 13, there is a way for you to see it. And what I'm saying to you here is that there is something beyond your ability to understand, beyond the ability of the human body, and if you are willing and if you want to, and if you be patient enough to submit yourself to this, then you'll see for yourself. Death is actually the continuation of life after the end of the physical body which you use, but does not contain you. In other words, you use the physical body, but the body does not contain you. You're not in the body. You're attached to the body. And we'll get into explaining that. There is what is called an electromagnetic energy. The electromagnetic energy connects the spirit, that is you, connects you to the body. You are connected to it. There's you, there's the body, you're connected to it. At death, the electromagnetic circuit is cut. There's you. You're not connected to the body anymore. The body they take, throw it away. Look, here's my Ford Taurus. I am connected to it. Everybody sees me ride around. They always say, there's the Ford. Here he comes. Here he is. The Ford is no longer capable of providing me with service. I am no longer connected with it. I'm separated from it, but I'm still here. Now what happens? If I have to get a new car, in the same way, I would have to get a new body. You're still the same, but not connected to the body. And you go on, the ancients believe, communicating in the exact same way that you do now. And how do you communicate now? By thought. Your entire existence is recorded on this microwave computer, so everything is kept. I would hope that they save their, work. Everything is consistent on this. If you wish to communicate in the five senses realm, you need a body. You have to have a body if you're going to communicate in the five senses realm. There's no other way to do it. That's all you need it for. If I wish to go up the parkway at 50 miles an hour, what do I need? A car. There's no way that I can go up the parkway at 50 miles an hour unless I have a car. There is no way that you can communicate in the five senses realm unless you have a body. If you wish to see the picture, you need a TV. But without a TV, the picture's still there. You just can't see it. You see, the point is this. If you get the TV, what in God's name is that? What is that? If you get the television, and the television has got the knobs on it, you turn the television on, you can see the picture. So you say, I don't have a television. The picture is still here. You just can't see it. Don't you understand what I'm saying to you? It is here. You can't see it. In this room, I told you this morning, there are elephants going through here. There are lions attacking zebras. There are wrestlers in here. There are airplanes flying through here. There are people in love here. There are people doing sexual things in here. Right on top of your chair, all this is going on. You can't see any of it, but it's here. All you've got to do is get something that can hook into the frequency, and you can see it. But the fact that you can't see it doesn't mean it's not here. It's here. The television is not picking up a signal from New York. The television is picking up the signal that is right here in this room. You can pick up signals that are right here in this room once you are able to get yourself in your frequency adjusted to the proper frequency of that which you call God. Otherwise, you hear nothing. What did Jesus say? If you got ears, listen. In other words, and he wasn't talking about rabbit ears. He said, if you've got ears, in other words, if you're capable of hearing. But Jesus also said, there's a lot of people can't accept this stuff because you're not capable of hearing it. The difference is death. The difference in dying or death is that you are not capable of operating your body anymore. It's burned out. Similar to someone who's paralyzed. You had a situation like that for a while immediately after your stroke, didn't you? You were alert, weren't you? Inside of yourself. You weren't able to function for a while. Right? Hold it. This is good. Can you get the star here? Go ahead.
They called it vegetation state.
You were in a vegetation.
They, not me.
No, yeah, but this is.
In other words, it's like what you're. In other words, I know me, but the physician and everybody else, they thought I didn't, but I did.
Okay. So in
That's
other
what
words,
you're
even
saying.
though you could not communicate,
Right.
you were totally alert, totally aware, and
Oh
knew,
yeah,
knew what was-
understood exactly what they were saying, and they were saying, "Oh, it's a shame, this poor guy." But I knew it, but no,
You couldn't
I
move.
could not. No,
and you could not communicate.
no,
You were totally cut off,
completely.
but you were totally there.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. The fence rests on that one. See, talk to the man. This man actually experienced what we're talking about. Was totally unable to communicate, but completely alert, completely rational. You see a lot of people that are paralyzed. You see some people who have a dystrophy or some kind of thing, and you think, oh, in the old days, we used to run across the street to see somebody coming up with muscular dystrophy. But inside, that person is as rational, as alert, and as healthy as you. It's the spirit. It's that which is the true you inside, is not able to operate the body. And so when that body, it's the same thing with Albert. The body wasn't working, but he was working. And if the body died, he wouldn't. He couldn't. It was just the inability to use that, see. The person is alive and conscious, can see and can hear, but he cannot send messages because the circuit is cut. The circuit might be burned out. Yes, sir. Wait till I get down to you, Joe, and we'll get a picture of Uncle Joe here.
That's what you were saying before, that the body is just a shell.
Well, the body is, to me, I think the body is I don't want to put it down now. I think it's a very vital, I think the body, I disagree with religion. I think the body is just as important as the spirit. I think a spirit without a body is absolutely worthless. And I think a body without a spirit, we're finding out, is absolutely worthless. I think there has to be a balance between the two, say. But the body is given to us and operates on the five senses. So we say, well, okay, we get from channel 2 to 5. But if there's 7,000 channels, we have a challenge now. And all of these ancient scriptures are telling us how to activate these frequencies that can bring us above and beyond all of this. When you get into the situation of talking about death, then at that point it becomes a shell. And obviously, if you are inside of the body, and the body is dying, then you're going to leave. You're going to leave. Well, I don't care if it's a dog or a cat or a human being, you leave the body. You just leave it. Now, I want to give you two sayings of what Muhammad believed, and it's very, very interesting. We just did something about the Muslims and Muhammad's Allah, which are interesting, but this is what Muhammad believed. He said, "Do not cry out, nor tear your hair out beside the dead, for you will make them feel very sorrowful." And he said, "We who are alive are no better at hearing what is said than those we call dead." See, Albert was in a situation where basically the body was almost dead, yet he was perfectly sound, rational, sane, alert, understood everything, and heard all the people slobbering all over him and yeah. But he was completely aware of what was going on. And this is what Muhammad's saying. The person may linger near the body, but the person is hearing everything that's being said. That's an interesting thing that comes from Muhammad. All of this electromagnetic, all this microwave stuff, dreams, ideas, fears are part of you, but they're not part of your brain. Your brain is the catalyst for making it appear, the phenomena appear to be reality on the level of the five senses. And to go into death, and everybody does. You see, sometimes I think, gee, you get scared of that. But then I start thinking, my mother was scared of everything, but she died. She got through it okay. The most weak people in the world, nobody gets it. And there's something that you don't know. There's something that happens just before the time when you are gently lifted out by the hand by this universal power that is so benevolent. Say, hey, it's time to go. Even a person in an airplane crash. Even an animal before, whether you want to call it shock or coma, whatever, there is a gentle thing that is introduced like a drug, and so something happens. But if you die and you're not aware, see, now, when you die, when I die, we are going to be aware of what's going on. We're going to be aware of what's happening. You say, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, I understand. And the person who dies, according to the ancients, physically follows what is going on around him just like you do. conversations, people crying, people worrying, all of that stuff, and it happens until the etheric waves dissipate and the person goes off to continue into their experience. See? Otherwise, you can't deal with this. Otherwise, there is no logic to all of this. Otherwise, there is no purpose to all of this. Otherwise, there is no explanation to all of this. Here you are. You feel everything. You are connected to this body. Okay. But yet, on the other hand, that body suddenly expires, and yet everything that is not inside of you, where does it go? You know? Where... like I said, let's do this. Just think for a minute about a house that you lived in when you were a kid. Just close your eyes for a second. And you can see the house. See the front porch. See where you used to go in the side door. You know, whatever. See your favorite room, the room that you used to hang out in most, or wherever you played. See the backyard. Well, where'd that come from? Was anybody in this room unable to see that? Of course not. But do you know what? None of that's inside of your head. It's part of this part. This is the body part. The body brain was just going zip, 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 and processing this stuff so that on the five senses realm, you could see it. But if you were cut off from this, you don't have to see in the five senses realm. Now you're in the 7,568 senses realm. You see? But remember what I'm telling you right now, and you may look at me and you're not sure, and the reason you're not sure, because you're thinking with the five senses. You're looking at me in this room, the people that are here, and you watching out there, and me, you're looking at me, and your television is set between 2 and 13. You have to get away, connect to the cosmic cable, and then allow yourself to go into that realm, and then you see that. Because this, you know, what am I going to do? How can I assure? How can I prove this to you? Can you imagine taking this to the church across the street where we're talking about here? Can you imagine this? And why? But see, you would then sit here and say, geez, you know, we got to get them connected to the cable. They can't go any higher than 13. They don't understand this. But I'll tell you something. When I talk to people about the person being near them after death, everybody is spooked. They don't want to hear about it until somebody dies. And then when I go into the funeral parlor, oh, I needed to hear that. Oh, I needed to hear that. Because all of a sudden, it makes sense. And I would challenge anybody that is open, when a close member of the family dies, if you sit quietly in that house, you will be so filled with the presence of that person. You will be communicated with by the presence of that person. I have not set foot in the cemetery where they put my mother's body. I have not set foot in that place. I have no need to. Because in doing what I just told you to do, her face came to me as clear as your face is, and she explained exactly what happened. When she woke up, there were people who surrounded her, whatever the heck it was. I don't understand where, how, what. And she said everything was fine, and that was it. I am not going to check on the old used parts that burned out and some dump, you know, under the wood some. For what? Look, you're going to go to the cemetery. And do you know what it says in the Bible when they came looking? The angel said, you know, in this myth, they were looking for Jesus' body. What did the angel say? Why do you seek the living among the dead? Bodies die, people don't. Beyond that point of what happens after the etheric runs out, see, it's all electricity. Now the electricity starts to run down, and suddenly you start to get a little light, fade, and then off. What goes on after that? It's written over there. I don't know. I can't tell you that. I go for the point of, you know, that gets back into my body. See, somebody was telling me this morning that they were talking to some person, I don't know, it was one of you folks, and they said something about reincarnation. So, do you believe in this stuff, reincarnation? That's ridiculous. Look, folks, every religion in the world believes in reincarnation. The only difference between us and the fundamentalists across the street is they believe that the reincarnation takes place on a different planet. That's the only difference. They go into a different planet. We say, no, it's here. You see, the point is, and I love this way, I say, hey, whoa, whoa, you're not getting out of here that quick. You made the mess here. You stay and clean it up. You see? I'm sure God has a sign. I'm not your mother. You go back and clean up the mess. That's the beautiful part of this. See? It's good. But let's, and I won't keep you much longer, but let's focus just for a moment on the continuance of the soul with the teachings of nature. What did I do? And I think it made sense to you. We used the idea of a television set to, yeah, let's go back a couple hundred years. Here I'm standing here in a church. And a couple hundred years ago there was people standing in churches. Here's a young lady sitting behind this little thing on a pole over there on the side of the room. Okay? After this is over, people in Hawaii, we have a church that's now running these things in Hawaii, are going to be able to watch this in color. That's ridiculous. That's impossible. See, it's not possible. And the only reason you don't, run out the door is because you see it with your own eyes. All the things that you would have said would have been miracles beyond belief a couple hundred years ago or 100 years ago are happening, and you don't even think twice about it. They went to the moon 50 years ago. Nobody would even bother with it anymore. You wouldn't even get up to watch it. They're going to the moon. I'm going out. Who cares? See, a miracle is just something that hasn't happened yet. Once it happens, what's the next one? Now look at so we used the television set to describe how you've got to adjust your frequencies. You have electric frequencies in your brain. They interact with cosmic waves that come down from the stars, and you have got to start working on it and start seeing and making adjustments within those frequencies so you can reach higher frequencies. But we talked about it from a TV standpoint. Page 919 in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul makes a statement. And this is what I've tried to do to give you that little analogy with the TV set. He says in Romans chapter 1 and verse 20, the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So what I'm telling you right now, the things that are made, electronic things that are made, that are able to propel you to higher and higher frequencies are exactly what is a description of what goes on inside of the computer and the television stuff that you have here. You have on the side of your head 2 antennas. You have in the middle of your face a transmitter. You have in the sides of your face 2 cameras. You have a television set built right in. And in the center of it all, you have this magnificent computer. And nobody thinks twice about it. Nobody thinks twice about it. That's like having a $30,000 or a $20,000 computer in your house and not trying to figure out how to use it. And Albert will tell you when he first got his computer and I first, you can get very discouraged when you first get a computer trying to figure out how to use it. Nothing works. And Renee, you should know. Right? Nothing works. Everything is fakakta. I can't get it. There's no way I'll be able. But what do you do? If I spent half the time meditating that I did messing with that computer, I'd be communicating with all of the angels everywhere in the world. But I stayed with that computer because I got so ticked off. I was going to, how could somebody would come in like AJ and sit down and start doing all those things and we're working. That would only get me mad. So I'm going to do the same thing. And do you know what? I stand here and I would pledge right to you that is exactly, I know that is the knowledge of the spheres. I know that is the knowledge of the universe. I know that is what God is all about. I know that's what Christ is all about. And I will be doggone if anybody is going to deprive me of that. And I'm going to work at it and work at it and work at it until I get that down just as good as I got the computer down. Because I can sit at a computer now and do very well. I mean, not be in Renee's category. He's done it a lot longer. You program this stuff, don't you know? I can't do that. But I haven't had a need to do that. But I can do a lot of the other things. And the reason is I didn't have any books, and I didn't have any meetings, and I didn't have anybody tell me what techniques to use. I just sat down and slobbered through it until I got it. And you can do anything that way. And this is the way you should do your meditation. And so what does it say? We see the things that are made. You see the leaves fall from the trees. Go outside, there's no leaves on the trees. But you know what? They're going to come back. All nature appears dead. But when the sun touches the lamb Aries, it's going to come back. But I want you to just understand one thing. Meditation without teaching, to me, is worthless. It's worthless. All it's going to do is make you relax. That you're never going to understand. That's why this is so important. And that's why we've been given such a gift of being able to explain these things. Proverbs 1:5, if you want to write it down, it says, a wise man will hear and will increase learning. And Romans 15:4 says, whatever things were written before were written for our learning. But everybody cannot learn in an appointed time. One person does not learn as quickly as another person. Yet many are not ever leaving this world having experienced this salvation from themselves. That's what I said. Salvation, what is salvation? You know what salvation is? Escaping you. Escaping yourself, escaping the lower self. It says in the Bible, it is God's plan that the world might be saved. God sent his Son that the world might be saved. Get this. Will you just stay with me for a minute? Come on, everybody's you want to hear it. Come on, just stay with me for just a minute. Okay? I'm going to wake you up because I got to tell you. You're yawning, I see you back there. I just need to tell you something. Please listen to me. All right? This is very important for me. Because I'm going to do something on this, on television. Every one of you have gone inside these Christian churches. Every one of you have been joined in some way or another allegiance with some kind of Christian churches. Okay? The most critical cosmic thing in the church and in religion, and it is part of Buddhism, Mohammedanism, Islam, Hinduism, Christian, Judaism, is Passover. Passover. It moves the entire universe from Pisces to Aquarius. It moves the entire earth from winter to spring and summer. It moves you from the lower to the higher, from the left to the right. It moves everything from that which is dark to that which is light. It moves the dark days of winter to the 20-hour days of summer. It moves us all in the right direction, and Christianity stopped it. They said, we shall have Easter. And when they said we shall have Easter, they said we'll celebrate his resurrection because they didn't want you to know about your resurrection. It's gone. It's gone. They know nothing about it. And it says in that book, this is a covenant you shall keep forever. And they quit it. And you can't get enough people packed into these places. And you know what it says in here? Whatever you ask in my name. And you know what it says in here? There's salvation in his name. There's healing in his name. There's power in his name. And you know what they did? They changed his name. Now, do you know why there's no Passover? Because the early Christian church was anti-Semitic. Do you know why his name is not Yahushua? Because the early Christian church was anti-Semitic. So they made up a Greek name and gave it to him. And they all say, Jesus is Lord. That may be, and that's why they're so screwed up. Because the guy that they've got as Lord is not connected to the guy who supposedly roamed around the streets of Jerusalem. Not the same guy. Listen, folks. Don't tell me you love the Lord if you won't even allow him to have his God-given name. Because you changed it. Who can say that it's not a mantra? Who can say that that name Yahushua, repeated over and over again, may enlighten you? Who could say that that name Yahushua, repeated over and over again, might heal you? Who can say that that name Yahushua, repeated over and over again, would lift you to a point of understanding and fulfillment? Who could say? But they changed it. They ripped it out. And they said the name that God ordained, get rid of it. The covenant that God ordained of Passover, get rid of it. And they want everybody to follow them. They have made up a mythological character out of Greek mythology. And I'll tell you something else, folks, and if you think I'm kidding you, you talk about anti-Semitism, let me tell you something. You look in this Bible, the Bible he's got, look in any of the Bibles you got, and you tell me about anti-Semitism when you find people born in Palestine, living in Jerusalem, surrounded in Iraq and Iran and Jordan and all these places, and you got people by the name of Timothy running around there? Timothy. Huh? Timothy? Find me a Timothy. Why is he named Timothy? Because whoever it was a Jew. And we don't want any Jews. We got Timothy. Huh? Yes, was he the only guy? Every one of the good guys, tell me this, every one of the good guys in the Bible was given an English Western Europe name. Every one of them. Bartholomew? Find me go into Yasser Arafat and say, have you got anybody by the name Bartholomew living here? Philip. Hi ho, Philip. Pip pip. Of course, Peter, Paul, and Mary. What a joke. Who changed his name from Saul to Paul? He couldn't have the name Saul. Why? Because it's a Jewish name. These people, let that go. Are you kidding me? And you know what they'll say to us? Oh, he changes the Bible. Next time they ever say he changes the Bible, ask him, what about Timothy? How'd he get in there? So, I want you to, you see, if I tell you that I know something, it's very hard for you to understand it because it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back and I'm not. It sounds like I'm trying to say, like some of these New Age people, I can channel St. Hershey or whatever this stuff is. I mean, get out. Go away. St. Hershey's got anything to say, let him tell me. But I can tell you that I know this from my own contacts, okay? And that you have a tremendous opportunity now that these cosmic waves are there, and this is the time to work very hard at your meditation wherever you do it, and open yourself. In fact, Joan and I were talking last night, and we're going to start in our living room of at least 2 or 3 times a week, in addition to what we do here of meditating with you. So it's the time is at hand to do it, and do not forsake this because I think you've gotten a lot of ideas about this. I can tell you on good grounds about this death thing that the people live after their body has died, and however this goes with a new body, that's in God's realm, but they are alive, that the body dies, the person doesn't, and they are close, and so forth and so on. And I can tell you that this cosmic movement that comes down from the earth, it comes down from heaven and from the stars and touches us at birth. As we said this morning, it is the plan that is talked about in Jeremiah. It says, before you were in the womb, I knew you, and so forth and so on. But if you don't listen, and if you don't come, and if you don't think and study these things, and I'm pretty proud of you because I know you do, then you don't have the capacity to learn. And you've got to do that. You've got to meditate, and you've got to study these things. And then there will be this birth, just like the Son was born last week, to rise up to the Lamb and to sit at the right hand of power. And then your fulfillment is true. If the Son that was born Sunday rose up so it could have a good time, it would stink. It doesn't. The Son which was born Sunday rises up to sit at the right hand so that you can have life. That's your job. Your job is not to get saved. Who the heck cares? And they come on television, well, I was saved when I could care less. The important thing is to allow ourselves to rise like the sun so that what we do is for the benefit, salvation of others, help of others, healing of others, and the restoration of this planet back into the bosom of God where it belongs. That's the beautiful part. Goodbye.